You know, when people talk about music documentaries, there's a phrase that comes up a lot, and that is passion project. Now, if you're cynical, you can think that's a neat bit of marketing phraseology. But if you've ever been moved by a song, a lyric, a performer, or a performance, you know that it's not just a cliche. And I think of all the films that Doc and Roll has shown, I can't say that there's another film that term is more appropriate for than this one. I'm really honored to be sitting next to Stephen Budd, Jean-Paul van Mierlo, and Marc Waltman, director, producer, and a man who met Adrian Borland when you were just kids and were responsible for bringing his music and serving as his first manager, and went on to be a hugely respected figure in the music business, working with artists from Camden all the way to Africa. So I think we will get some useful insights. Tell me, Jean-Paul, when you look out in the audience tonight, what are you thinking when you look at the faces that are out there?
Mostly I'm proud that in a certain way it seems to be that I'm a linking pin between friends and family and fans of Adrian who are all together here. People who all were connected with Adrian but didn't know each other. That's one which I'm very proud of.
So friends, family, people who shared his life, band members, many people brought together by this film and by what you did.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
It's not an easy thing to take on a film. We all have artists we're passionate about in varying degrees. Did anyone ever tell you were a little bit crazy trying to take on this project? Did you ever think so? That you'd bitten off more than you could chew?
Honestly, to say no, no. I always had the courage to do it, and the energy. I really found out from the beginning that I had to do it, and I had to do it together with Marc, who was a friend of mine from my youth. And Adrian meant so much to me and helped me to live and to come through the 80s, that I really had to do to make this film on Adrian. Somebody had to do it. I think Adrian deserves far more recognition than he had, and I hope really this film helps also to give him some more recognition than he had.
And going back to who's in the audience this evening, so many people from Adrian's life. There's one person who's not with us this evening.
Yeah, that is what makes us really sad, because when we started the first recordings we did, the first film we did at Bob's house, who passed away 2 weeks ago. We saw with pain in our heart that it was not really going well with Bob at that time, 3.5, 4 years ago. And we always said to each other, we really hope we can make this film, finish this film before Bob passes away. So we were always conscious about that there was something going on with Bob. And sadly, now on this day, 18 years ago, Adrian passed away, came from London. We have this English premiere today, and Bob passed away 2 weeks ago, so how sad it can be. And he will be buried on May the 5th, and that's the same day that Adrian was buried 18 years ago.
Now, you've known Marc for many years.
Yeah.
Merely knowing someone and liking them and being friends and knowing that they have enormous skill in filmmaking doesn't necessarily mean they're going to say yes. And if I understand correctly, Marc was not the biggest fan of Adrian Borland. He wasn't number 2 behind you.
No, that was a bit of a struggle in the beginning. But Marc can explain maybe better himself. But he knew that I was always talking about Adrian. We were both visitors of a youth center in Holland, in Zoetermeer. And I was always shouting to the DJs that they had to play the sound, and I was talking always about Adrian. So he knew how fascinated I was concerning Adrian. But he was not into the sound, nor Adrian, no.
He is now.
Yeah, yeah, I'm now. But the story of Adrian immediately grabbed me, and in short, people like Adrian, and the film is a lot of in the film is about his illness, but I like to see it as a diversity which makes life more colorful or meaningful for other people, and the way he had to suffer for that. And you know, no mistake about it, he wanted to do it, you know. If he didn't want to do it, he would stuck with his meds, with his medication, but he wanted to be creative, and he wanted to, you know, share his view of the world, and that's you know, grabbed me the most. That grabbed me immediately when Jean-Paul came to me that night. I want to make a movie about my hero, which is Adrian, and in another way, Adrian became a hero for me for another reason, and the reason is that he, you know, people like Adrian, we always put a label on people like that, but we really shouldn't do that, because they make the world better, or look at things in another way, or another, that, you know, I'm getting, the normal people are not looking at. So that really is the story of Adrian for me.
And in addition to exploring that story, the issue of creativity and mental illness, there's obviously the story of his career. Now, Stephen, you were there pretty much at the start. Would you like to say a little bit about how you met him and why, barely out of your teens, you decided to release records and become an artist manager?
I met Adrian, I was 14, he was 15. He lived next door to my best friend at school. He had an electric guitar, I had an electric guitar, and we used to sit on the side of the road and play guitar with each other. It was like that. And then,
was he any good?
He was fucking amazing. He was like the best guitarist, one of the best guitarists I've ever seen in my life, to this day. I think it's underplayed how good a guitarist he was. He was jaw-droppingly good. And I was, you know, he was a David Bowie fan, I was a Jimi Hendrix fan, right? But he could play guitar like Ziggy, you know. It's like he really could play. And then, you know, I went off and did my thing. I was roadieing for bands and in the punk, big birth of punk, and then he started up this band. He's just like, we got this band, The Outsiders, and actually, you know, I said in the film that they weren't very good. Actually, they weren't bad, right? There was moments of really great stuff in there, and I actually listened to the record the other day, and I've like got it out the sleeve, covered with dust, and I played the Outsiders album, and actually, hi, this is better than I remember it, you know, and then you know, I went and saw them play. They played at the Vortex, I think it was, and they played TVI, as every band played TVI.
I think it was a council regulation at the time.
Yes, you had to. You couldn't get a gig unless you played TVI. And then and Iggy jumped on stage and pushed Adrian aside and like started singing TVI. I was like, what the fuck is happening, you know? But nobody recognised it was Iggy, but it was Iggy. And
Really?
but they did eventually. He wasn't quite as well known then as he became later on.
Hadn't done the adverts.
And then there was another time when at the Hammersmith Odeon, and Adrian was there. We'd all gone to see Patti Smith, and I don't know if I told you this story, but anyway, and Patti Smith goes like, "We've got a spare guitar here. Anybody want to play?" And Adrian just like climbed up on the stage and just picked up the guitar and started playing with Patti Smith, which was quite cool. But that was the early days, and anyway, so I age 19 or 20, started. I said I want to start a record label and put out singles of bands that I really liked. And the first single that I put out was we'd recorded a song together with him on guitar and me on bad guitar, and
That's a formal role.
and a drum machine, right? And Graham on bass, and we put it out as Second Layer, right? It was called, and I put this single out on my own little label out of my bedroom, you know, pressing up. There was no, you couldn't go to one place and put out a record, you know, like just go like, here's the money, press up the records and blah blah blah. No, you had to go to a factory, get it cut, go to a factory, then go and get a label made, and you think, oh Christ, I need a sleeve, get a sleeve made. Oh Christ, I need like screen printing on there, and then
the famous learning curve.
yeah, and then took it to Rough Trade, and they bought all the record. They bought all 500 copies off me, and all of a sudden the record went to number 2 in the independent charts. That's something not a lot of people know about either. So there was this other band that he had called Second Layer, you know, that released a couple of albums, and that was quite something. But then the sound was the second single I put out, the Physical World EP, which we recorded for like 50 quid with Nick in fantastic studio in Elephant.
So as a budding label mogul and manager, clearly, usually the game plan
I
is
didn't
to...
snort loud enough there.
Usually the game plan is to expand beyond 500 records and select audience. One of the things that people talk about when they talk about Adrian's work, besides its brilliance, is a regret that it didn't reach further than it did. That perhaps in the view of people who see his genius, that he didn't receive the acclaim that perhaps he deserved.
There's a reason for that. Adrian didn't want to be successful.
Seriously, wasn't that just a punk pose? Everyone did that then?
Yeah, there was a fear in him that I look back now and I can see it quite clearly, and I think it's demonstrated in the film brilliantly, that he was terrified of that crossing the line into having to stand up and being acknowledged. It's a weird thing about craving acknowledgement and not wanting acknowledgement. It was like, no, don't give me acknowledgement. You know, I don't want to be, and it was like, at the same time he was craving it. I think lots of people experience that from time to time, but in my opinion, I can't say this categorically, but in my opinion, he was terrified of the idea of really stepping. He knew he was that good, but he was almost like he didn't want to own it, right? And those people who are successful decide that they're going to own it, and some people who are successful decide they're going to own it, but they don't have it, right? And they just go like, fuck it, you know, I am this good, and they grow into something, right? But he was that good, and there was something that he had a resistance to owning it.
And that went beyond a kind of punk pose about labels and...
Yeah, I mean, there was all of that at that time. I mean, you know, we shouldn't have signed to Corova. We should have signed to Rough Trade or something else, you know, but I mean, that was what it was. But he wasn't... The thing about Adrian he wasn't cool, right? And there was something around that at that time. It was like, you know, there was a pose that you needed to have, you know.
He didn't have Ian McCulloch's lips.
No, he didn't have that, you know. And but he, as a songwriter, as a performer, as a live band, honestly, I used to stand on the side of that stage. I only worked with them, by the way, from when they started till the end of the second album, right? So from the Lion's Mouth. So it's only that period. And then I went off and did other things. But I used to stand on the side of the stage and just watch them play. And I'm going, this is the best thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. They were amazing live.
So when you talk about the catalogue and having listened to The Outsiders and realising that it's actually a pretty good record, something, Jean-Paul, you said to me earlier today about the amount of material there is and the feeling that more needs to be done with it. Can you tell us a little more about that? What's in the vault? What needs to be done?
Well, first of all, today we re-released Beautiful Ammunition, the third CD of Adrian, which we release now on
Vinyl Harlem?
on vinyl. Yeah, vinyl sounds Harlem. Vinyl Harlem vinyl sounds. How was it?
Better check the run-out groove.
No, it doesn't matter. Company in Haarlem, which likes the sound of Adrian Borland. Today is the release of it. I got a few of them with me, so you can buy them afterwards with me. But I know, and Bob told me, and during his life already gave me some recordings, just like Carlo van Puttendijk, who's in the film. I'm sure there are 60 or 70 songs of Adrian which have never been released, and it would be very nice if someone would take care of those songs and release them. Just like all his solo albums, which would have been nice that it would have been re-released. Like there are hundreds of lyrics of Adrian's, handwritten lyrics, which Bob gave to me, which I don't know if there are songs for, but there are lyrics for, and knowing Adrian, how he worked, there must be songs somewhere. He was so productive, you can't imagine that. So nobody knows how many records we can again
There were
release.
other bands that he had. You know, there was like a band, I can't even remember what they were called, but there was this album that he made called The Witch Trials, which was fucking phenomenal. Somewhere there's a cassette of this record.
No, it's a record. It's with Yellow Biafra.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's called The Witch Trials. But there was also a band like Second Layer, the Honolulu Mountain Devils. There are 2 CDs, but he was so productive. Every day he wrote a song, I think.
Marc, I wanted to ask you, making this film, I assume there was not a huge budget or a multi-millionaire backer. This is my guess. What's it like as a professional filmmaker and someone working in the industry taking on a project where there's a great story, great music, no shortage of passion, but a definite shortage of cash? Did it make you think twice? What did it make you do or not be able to do?
Well, you have to do everything yourself. That's basically it. Jean-Paul.
Punk ethos lives on.
Sorry?
The punk ethos lives on. Do it yourself.
Yeah, maybe. But no, yeah. Well, we knew we were going to make this movie, and we knew that we would finish it, and you know we did. That's basically it. So Jean-Paul arranged everything and got everybody in front of the camera that we needed, and he also, you know.
I was very impressed that you managed to get Graham in front of the camera.
Yeah.
You know, because that couldn't have been easy.
That took
Well
a
done.
while. It took a while to get Graham. There was a little bit of convincing.
But without money, you mentioned to me earlier today that one of the positives of a self-funded project is that there isn't any external pressure. So
No, there was nothing behind us who were saying you have to maybe you have to use this song because it's more commercial, or maybe you have to do this. We could, you know, we really could explore the story that was in there. And when we interviewed everybody, basically the story that you saw, everybody told.
Yeah.
So there's not there's not a lot of things that were left out or something. This is really the story of Adrian, and we could filter it ourselves. We could make it like we wanted to make it, and that's I don't know, you know, I don't know if you have more money you can you can hire other people to do things for you, but you know, now we did everything ourselves. So, but
I
but it's okay.
I think it's interesting. It's like that. This film was made really well on no money, on very little money.
Yeah.
That album, the first album, was made for less than £500. Right.
So the story continues.
You know, and it's like, it just shows you that when there's passion and there's art and there's passion in art, it's not about, you don't need the money to make something beautiful, you know, and I think that's symbolic. There's a synchronicity between those two things.
Now, in terms of the story, Jean-Paul, one thing that you mentioned to me was that the story that Marc told was not necessarily one that you knew. The person that we see on the screen, the challenges he was facing, his illness, you didn't know about this when you began this project, did you?
I knew it when we started with this project, but I didn't know, I wasn't aware of this before that he died. I was a big fan and I saw him a lot, and I never knew that he had this illness. But after when he died, we also compiled a book of happy memories about Adrian, and then we became aware that there was more with Adrian. There was something wrong. But during making the film, things appeared, like that he tried to kill his parents, things like that, and that he did 4 or 5 suicide attempts. Nobody knew really, except his friends and family. But the fans didn't know. I didn't know,
Now,
and that was quite shocking.
were those people reluctant to talk about it? It's a very painful thing to talk about someone close to
Yeah,
you.
well, like,
If they're not sure how
especially
it's gonna be
B,
presented.
who I'm very proud of. I didn't mention that B was also today. I don't know whether she's still in here. Like Graham, we're very happy that they could tell their story. It really was reluctant for them. Yes, they had something carrying something with them, which they wanted to share, and they could share it now.
How did you get them to trust you? 2 guys look sincere, look like they know what they're doing. I might think twice before I told someone these stories.
Well, to be honest, it was not easy. As Graham, as B was not easy to get them in front of the camera, but yeah, at the end they did. I don't know how we did it, and we're very happy that they did it. There's one person missing in the film, and I don't know whether I'm gonna, if he's here or not, but I'm Dutch, I'm rude, and I'm direct. Mick Griffiths, who was the manager of the band, and did a lot for Adrian and
The agent.
the agent of the band, did a lot for Adrian and the band, and he's not in it, but he didn't want to be in it. But for the rest, everyone we asked is in it.
Of course, the point about a film about someone who's passed away is that they are not in it, but specifically there's not a lot of audio-visual footage of Adrian speaking. There's live footage. Was that a challenge for you, knowing that you can't draw on huge amounts of archival interviews, people talking about their art and so on?
Well, there was everything you see is in the film is what there is. You know, probably tomorrow or a week from now, somebody is going to give us a tape. I have something, but I really don't know. I think everything there is in the film, and we couldn't interview Adrian, of course. So what we did is we interviewed people who were very close to him, let them tell the story about how they experienced Adrian. And for some reason, if somebody is telling us a story in, let's say, 1987, I could pull out a record from that time, put it on the table, and the songs Adrian wrote were about the things that were going on in that time. So we have to Go.
We have to clear the building. No, time to find out.
I want to say one thing. There is more footage, like the old grey whistle test.
Right.
But we contacted the BBC, but because of our low budget, we couldn't pay that, so we couldn't use that.
I'd just like to end by asking Stephen, you know, there are many wonderful artists that people love, whose records come and go and who are largely unknown to history. Why should we care about Adrian Borland? What is in that music that endures?
He's got a powerful, emotive connection with a dark psyche, and that underlies his music. But there's also something interesting, you know, I'm thinking, why was he so, particularly Holland, why did Holland respond to him? And then it dawned on me, and look, this is going to sound fucking poncy, right? But it dawned on me that, you know, Holland was where, you know, Van Gogh came from, you know, and, you know, that relationship that he had between art and, you know, seeing it through the lens, a very different lens, seeing the world through a different lens, you know? And Adrian saw the world through a different lens, right? And part of his massive frustration is that we didn't see it through the same lens that he saw it through, right? And yet he was able to communicate with his lyrics something that touched everybody in this room, otherwise we wouldn't be here.
And thanks to the three of you for being here this evening and talking to us. What a wonderful film.
Thank you.